So, state and civil society. So we are going to have 4 articles or authors that who are going to speak in this panel. So we have got Muhammad al-Marakeby from Egypt. So we have got also Ramita Paraswati, Khaidir Hasram, Dewi Masita, and Muhammad Mukhlas, and all these speakers are already preparing their manuscripts. Hopefully that we are going to publish it in the form of a journal in the coming months. So of course we are going to select some articles to be published in our journal. So basically for speakers, you are going to have like we are going to have 1 hour and 30 minutes in this panel. Each speaker is going to speak in 15 minutes. And then we are going to have 5 to 10 minutes for me as a discussant to give comments or questions. And then we are going to follow this with questions and answer sessions. So without further ado, I will give opportunity for Muhammad al-Marakeby to start your presentations. So Muhammad al-Marakeby is an Azerite scholar who pursued his postgraduate studies in the Western academia. So he has awarded his he was awarded his PhD in Islamic studies from the University of Edinburgh, UK. So basically he has published in a variety of publications. Without further ado, floor is yours, Muhammad al-Marakeby.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Suryana, for the generous introduction. It's my pleasure and honor to join you today. So, inshallah, my paper is titled Neither Quiescent nor Rebellious, Islamic Political Theory in the Time of Necessity. In this paper, I discuss the development of Islamic political theory in late Ottoman Empire. I focus particularly on the ulama's response to various forms of oppression that plague the quotidian life of Egyptians. I show that the ulama were not quiescent against the ruler's oppression, rather they decided to align themselves with the people's side. They developed new fatwas and reformed the Islamic political theory in order to accommodate the peasants' resistance to the state's injustice. The ulama introduced a different theory for what they perceived as a time of necessity. In that time when injustice and corruption prevailed and rulers were no longer the protectors of the community, but their oppressors, at least according to some ulama's perception. The ulama decided to appoint themselves as juristic reviewers over the political decisions of the rulers. They arrogated to themselves the right to quash the ruler's decision, even if they didn't strictly contradict Islamic law. This judicialization of politics was motivated by the rise of the discourse of Fasad al-Zaman, the corruption of our time. I will present in this paper, inshallah, 2 theories developed by Shafi'is and the Malikis, respectively, to delegitimize some of the decisions of the rulers, even if they didn't challenge Islamic law rulings. Nevertheless, at the same time, the ulama remained loyal to the political legitimacy of the ruler. They didn't adopt a rebellious approach. They navigated a third way between quietists and the Kharijites. This represents an innovative attempt to restrict the authorities of the tyrants without resorting to armed struggle. In the following, I will discuss 2 theories. The first theory, developed by Malikis, claims that if the ruler or his employees were not just, his authority would be transferred to the Muslim community, Jama'at al-Muslimin. The delegation given to the ruler as representative of the Muslim community would be withdrawn back to its original holders, the Muslim Jama'ah. Sheikh Muhammad Alish, the Mufti of Malikis in Egypt in the 19th century, was once asked about a divorced woman from an honorable family who had no relatives. She got married to a equivalent husband and he gave her the due dower. As she didn't have relatives, she selected a man from the public Muslim to be her marriage guardian, and the wedding was made with the attendance of a considerable number of Muslims. After the marriage was consummated, someone came to claim that the marriage was void because if the judge should be the woman's guardian when she had no relative, not a man from the public Muslims. Sheikh Alish answered that the marriage was valid and the judge had no legal authority to annul it. He justified his opinion on the basis that judges at that time were missed, and what was found then was just nominal titles with no meaning in reality. Therefore, the judge had no competence to be a guardian, and any person from the public Muslim, Jama'at al-Muslimin, would be eligible to be the guardian. This fatwa clearly contradicts the established opinion of the Maliki madhab, which entails that the ruler or the judge is a subsequent legitimate guardian when the woman has no relatives. Alish's fatwa is not an extraordinary one, but it's an implementation of a general principle that Alish uncovered elsewhere. He argues that the member of the Muslim community supplant the ruler in that issue, and in every issue, they found that it's not possible to reach out him or if he is unjust. I contend this is a groundbreaking theory as it delegitimizes the ruler and strips him partially of his legal authorities if he is unjust. The solution that Alish proposes transcends the duality of legitimacy rebellion that inhabited, nay, dominated the mind of Islamic political theorists in the previous centuries. Alish doesn't endorse an armed rebellion, nor envisions the permissibility of dethroning the ruler, an approach that was repugnant to the ulama for its devastating consequences. Instead of legitimizing the armed insurgent against the unjust ruler, Alish suggests that he would remain a legitimate ruler. He believes that the Muslims must obey him. However, he occasionally delegitimizes some of his orders, authorities, and decisions when he believes that observing them contradicts what he perceives as the public interest of Muslims. What is at stake in this case is the political legitimacy of the decision of the ruler. Referring to the Muslim community as a vehicle for enforcing Sharia is repetitive in Alish's fatwas. If Alish expected that the Egyptian rulers or judges wouldn't apply Sharia in that case, he would ask the Muslim community to intervene to apply it. Similarly, he decided to empower the Muslim community of the authority of the ruler if he knew that raising a case before the official authorities could culminate in unjust decision against the wronged person, or would it charge him illegal costs? This notion of granting authority to the Muslim community seems to be a development of al-Juwayni's early hypothesis about the extinction of the rulers. Al-Juwayni, in the late Abbasid era, imagined a time where Muslims wouldn't find a ruler to govern them. He suggested that the position of the ruler was indispensable to Muslims, and it couldn't be left vacant according to both religion and rationality. Although Al-Juwayni was concerned with the instance where Muslims have no ruler, late Ottoman Malikis extended it to the case of unjust rulers. They claimed that an unjust Muslim ruler equals nullity. I believe this constitutes a dramatic development to Al-Juwayni's notion. Khalil, in the Mamluk, Khalil, the author of the famous Mukhtasar, who lived in the Mamluk era, affirmed that it was not allowed to raise a claim to the Muslim community while the Muslim ruler, whether a governor or a qadi, is available. However, Sheikh Ali al-Adawi, for instance, in the 18th century, suggested that the existence of the judge or the other people, while they are not just, is equal to nullity. Therefore, the case can be raised before the Muslim community. Similarly, Sheikh Ahmed al-Dardir, who lived in the 18th century, also argued that the absence of the ruler shouldn't be in reality, as they may be existent, but their existence was similar to their absence. As at our time in Egypt, where there is no Shari'i ruler, I quote. Similarly, Sheikh al-Sawi, who died in the 19th century, agreed with the Sheikh al-Dardir that the existence of unjust rulers was meaningless, and the real ruler should be the Muslim community in this instance. I will now move to discussing another theory developed mainly by the Shafi'i and to a lesser extent by Hanafis about the authority of the judges in the 19th century. Judges were perceived as representatives of the state, in as much as some juristic literature used the word hakim to refer to judges. With the domination of taqlid, the ulama lowered the qualifications required for the position of judges, the same way in which they simplified the conditions of the caliphs. Early theories had stipulated that judges should be mujtahid. However, later on, the ulama allowed the appointment of muqallid judges. Also, rulers were more inclined to appoint judges who were not utterly upright Muslims to ensure that they wouldn't oppose their tyranny. The ulama found themselves obliged to legitimize the ruling of those judges. Otherwise, if the ulama delegitimize their decision, this could cause the society to slip into disorder and chaos. This theory that granted legal legitimacy to unqualified judges for reason of expediency was referred to in the juristic debates as theory of Qadi al-Darura. Although theory of Qadi al-Darura was first developed by the ulama to legitimize the judge's decisions, the same theory has been invoked by late scholars to limit the authority of the judges. Late Ottoman ulama suggested that the decision of the judge of necessity can't be valid unless its reasoning proved valid. In Tuhfat al-Muhtaj, he states that many late scholars argue that the judge of necessity who doesn't meet some of the aforementioned conditions need always to elaborate the rationale of his decisions, and that he can't make a decision about a case without declaring its reasoning. This principle empowered the ulama to reject some of the judge's decisions on the ground of its ambiguity or generality. Shihab al-Din al-Ramli, a Mamluk scholar, argued that if the judge is asked to reveal the justification of his decision, bayan mustanadih, he should do that. If he refused, we, the ulama, would aver it, and it wouldn't be approved. Restricting the authority of late judges doesn't seem to be an exclusive Shafi'i doctrine. Hanafis also adopted the same principle of Qadi al-Darura when they found it necessary. In Tanwir al-Absar, Tumurtashi, for example, said that if the judge orders you, if you were a flagellant, the person who is supposed to execute the hudud, so if the judge orders you to kill this member or flog a convicted person, you are allowed to do that. However, another opinion attributed to Muhammad ibn al-Hasan al-Shaybani suggests that the flagellant shouldn't enforce the decision of the judge until he knows the judge's reasoning. Mullah Khisro argues that this is the most suitable opinion to our time, as judges became corrupt and they can't be trustworthy of people's lives, bodies, and money. This sounds peculiar to any observer, as how the executor or the flagellant, who is not an expert in Islamic law, know if the judge's decision is fair or not. Ibn Abdin, in response to this question, suggests that the flagellant needs to seek the affirmation of another just judge before he executes the order. Interestingly, some ulama didn't see this notion as limited to judges only, but as a general dichotom that could be extended to any official who was not trustworthy. The son of Ibn Abdin comment on the above question about the order of non-trustworthy judge, saying that this implies the orders of the rulers in our times don't signify an obligation. To conclude, this paper shows that the ulama were not quiescent against the ruler's oppression. Rather, they decided to align themselves with the people's side. They developed new fatwas and reformed some Islamic law rulings in order to accommodate the Egyptians' passive resistance to the state injustice. More importantly, this paper elaborates how the ulama introduced a different theory for what they perceived as a time of necessity. In that time, when injustice and corruption prevailed, the ulama decided to self-appoint themselves as juristic reviewers over the political decisions of the rulers. They arrogated to themselves the right to reject their decisions, even if they didn't strictly contradict Islamic law. However, at the same time, the ulama kept loyal to the political legitimacy of the rulers and didn't adopt a rebellious approach. They navigated a middle way between quietist and rebellious. And I believe this represents an innovative attempt to restrict the unfettered authorities of the tyrants. And this attempt was led by a group of ulama who were usually referred to as conservative, rigid, and backward, not by the well-known reformists of the 19th century whose call for constitutionalism were intensively studied. This draws attention to a different attempt of legal and political reform that didn't simply mimic the modern one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, al-Marakeby, for your interesting and informative presentations. Participants, I think that you can save your comments or questions for our question and answer sessions. And then now we are going to have another presenter to present his finding. Now I invite Khaidir Hasram, who is going to present his paper on Muslim political activism and development of Islam in Cambodia. So Khaidir, do you have any presentations?
Thank you, Pak Suryana. Yes, I have. I want to share my screen.
Okay, you have like 15 minutes to present your finding. Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the time. Thank you for bringing me to this wonderful forum. It's an honor for me. Before I start, I would like to express my gratitude to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala and His Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Briefly, first I would like to present the reason for my interest in studying Islam in Cambodia. In relation to my background, namely Sharia or Islamic law, especially my focus on bureaucratization of Islam, which is currently happening even in non-Muslim countries. In simple terms, what I mean by bureaucratization of Islam is the intervention of the state through policies to the Islamic community. The policy is based on Islamic proposition. In Muslim majority countries, it's clear there exists like zakat or wakaf or marriage in Muslim majority countries like in Indonesia or in Malaysia. Even now, and in economy, even now in Islamic economy or familiarly Sharia economy. I'm interested in what if this phenomenon occurs in a Muslim minority country, where a country that officially adheres to another religion makes proposition or policies that are based on Islamic teaching, or makes or at least take a side with the Muslim community. I often say the phenomenon beyond the imagination of our earlier scholar or ulama classic regarding to the relation between Muslim and non-Muslim rulers. Ulama such as Imam Malik even forbid a Muslim to travel on business or to trade to countries controlled by a non-Muslim because they are considered to make it difficult for Muslims to worship or practice their religious principle. As you see in my screen, there is many phenomena in Cambodia, like Cambodia institutionalized Halal, and this is Hansen that suggested to Muslim to be at top level position in from the communal level, until the province level. And now maybe there are 11 Muslims figures in the National Assembly, in the Parliament of Cambodia. So to discuss this, I asked 3 research questions. First, how involved were Muslim in the case Muslim Champa in the early period of their arrival to Cambodian territory? Second, how do Cambodia's global Muslim network, such as with Malaysia and Middle Eastern countries, encourage their involvement in politics and government? And the third, how is the involvement of Muslim in politics and government that has prompted the publication or the issue or the birth of several several pro-Muslim policies? To answer this question, I use qualitative research. The data I use is the result of my field research between 2017 and 2018 in the city of Phnom Penh, both in the form of observation, interviews, and documentation. The data is enriched with the result of the latest research through searching news document and social media homepage, especially Facebook, for Muslim leaders, because they are Muslim leaders. They are very active on Facebook, sharing their activities and programs in providing assistance to the Muslim community, also their political activities. So it can be seen in my previous slide, how Islam becoming has an interesting discourse in the media, and the Muslim are on the government agenda. In simple terms, this study argues that Muslims have been involved in politics and government since they first come to Cambodia. As early as they come to Cambodia, become a refugee from the capital Kingdom of Champa, now in central Vietnam. Their involvement in political activism today has strong historical roots. At first, they just want to survive. Then over time, they were increasingly exposed to the global Islamic world, especially after UNTAC was getting stronger with various agendas to increase resources, especially in the education program. Most of the Muslim politicians are foreign graduates who are fluent in either Malay or Arabic or even both, and English, absolutely. So as introduction, Cambodia is the country that officially addressed to Buddhism as the state religion, is state in the constitution of the Cambodia. The majority population is the Khmer. Muslim ranks from only 0% around 311,000 based on the Cambodian National Survey in 2019. About 80% other to Sunni Islam, following Sunni Islam, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, like Indonesia and Malaysia. The majority of them is the Cham and Spea or Malay, while about 20% or the rest follow the group of Imam San, or also known as a Cham Jahid. That they follow traditional form of Islam, like in the central of Vietnam. They are spread over 500 7 villages with 400 mosques throughout Cambodia, mostly in Tebong Khmum, Krati, Kampong Chenang, and in the capital city of Cambodia in Phnom Penh. Cambodia is ruled by a king. The name is Norodom Sihamoni, and the Prime Minister Hun Sen. He is one of the longest serving prime minister that win the election since 1993. His reign is the same as mine, but he is a leader that trusted and loved by Muslims.
I'm so sorry,
Yes.
Khaidir, but it seems that your picture is not moving.
Oh, it's moving.
It's not moving, so it stands still.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I repeat to share my screen, Mr. Sorry. How about now? It's moving?
Still not moving.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what is the problem.
Okay, so it's okay. Please continue your presentations. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I continue my presentation. Hun Sen, the Prime Minister.
I'm sorry, you may try enable editing. I think this may help.
Okay.
Okay, enable editing. Yeah. Okay.
Enable editing. Oh, sorry. I try once more again. How about now?
Not yet. I think you need to share your screen first.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. It's moving.
Okay. Yep. Okay, that's good. Yeah, good.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. So I continue my presentation.
Sure.
Yes. Okay. Hun Sen, the Prime Minister, as you see in the slide, is the longest serving Prime Minister that win election since 1993. But he is a leader that trusted and loved by the Muslim community. Perhaps this could be an insight or response to Ahmad Kur's argument about authoritarianism, which was the cause of the decline of Islam. Instead, Hun Sen's government encouraged the development of Islam in Cambodia. So, as you see, okay. Muslim relation and their political activism in Cambodia can be traced back to the early period of Muslim arrival as refugee from the Champa region or present-day Vietnam, specific in central Vietnam. Although Champa and Khmer relation were also tied with the conflict and harmony, when refugees come in a big wave, the Khmer rules accepted the Champa people according to historical record about 18th century. Many Cham Muslims were occupying position in the government as a staff, in the district offices to governor's offices at the provincial level. Among them, it is recorded that some work in the court in the military. The Muslim Cham have been heavily involved in the political and administrative areas of the government. Differences in language, tradition, and religion do not restrict Cham Muslim from fusing and blending to Cambodian society. Around the 19th century, it can be traced that the relationship between Cham Muslim and Khmer rules become increasingly intimate patron-clients. Being patron to the Khmer official and their familiars provide special protection and allow Chams to gain important position in the government. It is the basis of history to answer that Muslim political activism oriented towards nationalism and development has strong historical roots. Isa Usman, I quote Isa Usman writing an interview with Ken Fasak, an authoritative Khmer historian, state that the Khmer king whose name ended in Farman had a Cham lineage from his Cham father and Khmer mother. In addition, since the early period of Champa's arrival, they developed patron-client relationship with the Khmer rulers, which gave them more privileges in the form of guaranteed protection and access to power to occupy political position. Khmer and Cham relations are very good, even when King Norodom Sihanouk made a policy of uniting ethnic minorities in one Khmer nationalism. There were no excessive rivals. This is when the term Khmer Islam was emerged. In Cambodia, Muslims are referred to as Khmer Islam, either following Sunni Islam or Imam San. But this does not limit Muslims to maintain their identity as Cham people. They use both of the term between as a Cham and as a Khmer Islam. The UNTAC period was a period of Cambodia's transition from political disaster when the country was under the control of the communist Khmer Rouge regime that led by Pol Pot. About 2 million people were executed in a very short period between 1975 to 1979. Muslims are one of the main targets. Religion is considered to have the potential to disrupt the establishment of government. One of the 115 mosques before 1975, only 3 mosques were still standing. Nearly 70% of Muslims were targeted for execution. Of the roughly 800,000 remaining, 150,000 after the 79. After the UNTAC period, Cambodia received a lot of help from abroad. The Muslim community also benefits a lot. Muslims received many educational scholarships to study in the university, both at home and abroad. Diaspora networks that were originally refugees to various countries in the time of Pol Pot regime have regained access to help their relatives, their family who are still in Cambodia. Muslim political activism is increasingly supported by global Muslim network that I say Ummah. Cambodian Muslim who had the opportunity to study abroad return home to build a Muslim community that experienced hardship after the war or political disaster, and through a regime that target Muslim as a target of discrimination. The Muslim figure established NGOs to seek funding from various countries, particularly from Islamic countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and countries in the Middle East, to implement various programs in Cambodia to improve the quality of life of Muslims. The most important period encouraging the development of Islam in Cambodia at the time was the proliferation of civil society institution driven by educated Cambodian Muslim. Generally, they are from studying abroad, such as Ahmad Yahya or Usman Hasan. Usman Hasan now is the special minister, is the senior minister in the special mission by the Hansen. They very close with the prime minister. For example, CMCD, Cambodian Muslim Community Development, for example, get a finance for 300 students from Phnom Penh, from Cambodia, to study in Medina, in Saudi Arabia. In addition, the connection with the Ummah helps the Muslim community to encourage the rapid institutionalization of halal. After starting to run in 2018, Cambodia's halal institution, as stated by Malaysia and Thailand, are the two countries that dominate halal products in Cambodia. No, I think Indonesia is not the main player there. As I have shown on the first slide, it's clear that there are many Muslims who are active in political activities in Cambodia as a party administrator or a member. They are scattered in many. They are in many parties and become the top brass. However, the majority are in favor of the CPP, or Cambodian People Party, the party that has been in power and unbeaten since the first election in 1993. In the last election, the CPP, Cambodian People Party, still dominate with more than 80% of the vote. Interestingly, those who are active in politics, Muslim who are active in politics, are generally become founders of civil society institutions that get a lot of help from abroad. In fact, some who are currently chairman and the president of NGO seems to have a strong desire to get involved in politics in the future. Absolutely, this is still needs further research. The active involvement of Muslim in government has a positive impact. For example, in the birth of various pro-Islamic policies like the legalization of hijab in the public space, even when taking a picture for the ID card, Muslim women are allowed to wear hijab. Likewise, the halal policy, which is currently being implemented more intensely per 2009, there are 39 companies that have received halal label from the Cambodian halal institution. Cambodian halal is getting more and more help from the outside the country, such as Malaysia and Thailand. So Cambodian Muslim are Muslim. Sorry, I end my presentation, but I want to give some explanation about this picture. This picture is the picture is a Muslim figure. In the left side was a Mufti of Cambodia. In the center is the Osman Hassan, and the right side is the Prime Minister Hansen. And it takes when the government held iftar, official iftar, in the month of Ramadan 2019. This is iftar agenda has been carried out since 2013. So this is my exploration and explanation about Muslim political activism in Cambodia. In simple terms, I would like to say that the involvement of Cambodian Muslim in politics and government has contributed significantly to the development of Muslim in this minority country. Thanks for the time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Khaidir Hasram, for your interesting presentations. Actually, many Indonesian scholars are being criticized for being inward-looking. Probably over 90% of papers written by Indonesian scholars are about Indonesia. But
Yes.
this is the first. I think that this is very rare that Indonesians. I think that you also conduct field work in Cambodia, right?
Yes, I do. I did.
Funded by Indonesian government or
No, individual funding.
individual? Okay.
Yes.
So this is very rare. So I think this is very important work, and then hopefully that this is a signal that Indonesians are going to be more outward looking.
Thank you.
I think this is a very great
Yes.
scholarly work. And now we are going to have presentations from Ramita Paraswati from UIII. She is going to discuss on the development of global halal food, a comparative study of Indonesia and South Korea. So Ramita, do you have something to present? Do you have like how do you say PowerPoint presentations?
Yes, Prof. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, floor is yours. You have got like 15 minutes, 15 or 20. I think that's okay because it seems that Dewi Masita and Muhammad Mukhlas are not here, right? So yeah, I think you can have like 15 or 20 minutes to present, and then we are going to follow your presentations with questions and answer sessions. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present my article here. So my article here entitled Development of Global Halal Food, a Comparative Study of Indonesia and South Korea. Here I assess that according to a standard 2020, the amount that Muslim spend of food climbed by 3.1% in 2019, reaching up until 1.17 trillion US dollars from 1.13 trillion US dollar in the previous years. As a result, the fact that Muslims are obligated to consume halal food, regardless of whether they live in the minority or majority countries, there is possibility that the market of the halal food will continue to dominate the market food in the globe. As a result, halal has developed into a global phenomenon and a preferred norm among a Muslim. Even among people who are not Muslim, the halal industry must be viewed as a creative enterprise that can affect the national economic. But the buyer is not only from the Muslim country, but also from non-Muslim countries. Muslim nations like Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Middle East may able to make the most of the potential of developing their halal industry and building the halal hubs. Maybe there is no denying the refutable truth that halal food communities remain prominent in the Muslim countries as in Indonesia. The majority of halal food exporters, in other hands, come from the non-Muslim countries such as Brazil, Australia, US, Canada, South Korea, which have a minor Muslim population. This data illustrates that development nations that export halal food are aware of the significance the halal meat market because it ultimately contributes significantly to the revenue to those countries. Consequently, the vast majority of those nations are developed and capitalist. We can't deny that. Furthermore, the view the halal food business as a means of expanding their economy. They are making a rapid stride toward developing their industry and getting it already for admission into the halal market. It is a perspective scenario to contemplate since it arises why Muslim nations are unable to establish their halal product as their primary export commodity. And the next factor is about the migration. Migration is the factor that should be taken account in this issue, since the migration of Muslims from Asia and the Pacific to the other countries consists of approximately 600,000 people moving to Europe, around 1 million moving to the Middle East and North Africa, and around 170,000 people moving to North America, and 10,000 people moving to sub-Saharan Africa. Compared to Muslims who move from other parts of Asia and Asia Pacific, only around 750,000 people. So here, Maris's question is how Muslim and non-Muslim countries treat the halal food as a creative industry. Here, I want to investigate the similarities and difference in the challenge in establishing halal food and to investigate the policy intervention on halal food. So here in the method, I would conduct the comparative studies in terms define the case selection. This research pursue the comparative study of halal food. This paper will compare contribution of social culture, bureaucracy, policy making, system approach to developing global halal food. Hence, in selecting a case study, Indonesia is a big country with massive diversity and multicultural. However, South Korea is typically a multicultural country with most inhabitants being the Korean race. South Korea is the only non-Muslim country that exports halal food with a high monocultural level. It's around 99% homogeneous. Although Brazil, the USA, Argentina, India, and Russia are the top exporters of halal food, they are not as homogeneous as South Korea, so they are not included in this paper. Therefore, Indonesia and South Korea are prominent countries for this case paper to compare monoculture and multicultural. And how those countries make a policy on the issue of halal food. In addition, the two countries also have different economic system. Indonesia with a predominantly Muslim and it's more likely to be influenced by the value of Pancasila to accommodate the interests of its people. Meanwhile, South Korea adopt a Confucianism system with a value to move its people to compete in the material economy. The characteristic of these two different countries are suitable for analyzing a Marak theory of the spirit of capitalism. So this paper explicitly analyzes capitalism spirit in saying economic opportunities in halal food. Here on the theory, I use the theory from Ibn Khaldun and Mark Weber. In many people have done immigration since the colonial era to the globalization. In Paris kind of literature mentioned the impact of immigration. Ibn Khaldun also mentioned that the role of immigration is important to creating a dynamic atmosphere and a new society as well. Khaldun states that a settled society will be conquered by nomadic people and bring different ideas, creativity, and perspective. Ibn Khaldun concept able to explain how the immigrant community in South Korea can provide a new atmosphere to the state. They influence the local government to see opportunity for the halal food community to improve their creative industry. Immigrants who are slowly starting to grow and from new communities, especially in Taiwan, have a significant impact on changing the perspective of Korea bureaucratic policy toward Muslims, especially to accommodate their needs and follow up the halal food issues as export commodities to Muslim countries. Conversely, in their home country, most Muslims will feel they are in the comfort zone, consider that is the need for Muslims to consume halal food and consider they shouldn't to able to fulfill their needs for halal food. Thus, the authority ignored the opportunity for halal food as creative economic commodity. In addition, Indonesia demographic which has diversity and high tolerance for ethnicity, religion, race, and culture tend to accept immigrants. This incentive also affects Indonesia bureaucratic policy on halal food. Hence, the struggle for survival of immigrants is not significant compared to the other countries with a less multicultural Consequently, the theory of Ibn Khaldun approach is relevant to depicting the comparison of halal food industry on monoculture in South Korea and multicultural in Indonesia. Furthermore, the economic sector has a role determining the policies that Indonesia and South Korea implement in order to participate in the halal food market. The important value of the region, according to Mark Weber explanation, is a significant factor in spirit of capitalism. On the other hand, Indonesia, where the most people adhere to Islam, it tends to be communal. It is not as powerful as the ideal of Mark Weber's. On the other hand, South Korea, with adhere to Confucian's principle, is more likely to approach Mark Weber theory on significance of religiosity because of the influence of Confucian's values. So here, I try to compare between Indonesia and South Korea about diversity. Indonesia has substantial level of linguistic and cultural diversity, which contributes significantly to country multi-ethnic and multicultural makeup. There are approximately around 1,300 unique ethnic groups living in the country in 34 provinces and each of the group has its own language, dialect, and also traditional cuisine. But South Korea, they are the monocultural countries. Almost 99% of the total population is homogeneous. So relating to the food, they similar each other in every region. How about the immigration? So that is the topic that I want to highlight in this article about around 160,000 people, or around 7% of the total population, are foreign national from countries such as the United States, Australia, Arab, India, Japan, United States, from Southeast Asia, etc. On the other hand, even since the 19th, the large number of immigrants have been moving to the settling in South Korea. The majority of these immigrants are from Muslim majority nations located in South Asia, Central Asia, and South Asia, and Southeast Asia. So since that time, Muslims have continued to migrate, and population has increased at a rapid rate since the middle of the 90s. It was projected there were around 200,000 Muslims living in South Korea in 2016, and 47,000 of which were South Korean Muslim. Around 150,000 Muslims from the other countries, and a rest around 1.5% from the previous year's estimate. How about the bureaucracy? So here, the Indonesian Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas Indonesia, published Indonesian Islamic Economic Master Plan from 2019 until 2024, which claimed that Indonesia needs a policy to regulate change management, guarantee the safe and accept the Islam value of the trade. This recommendation and the accompanying logic from Bappenas explain why Indonesia does not have the reliable regulation system for halal food industry. The central government and the regional government in Indonesia still don't have policy that are aligned with one another. There is asymmetric information between the sector. Financial institutions do not understand the ins and outs of the creative industry, and the funding institutions still require tangible guarantee, such as degree, certificates, and especially business plan, which a vast majority of entrepreneurs are unable to fulfill. There are the crucial challenges that Indonesia is facing when it comes to its policy on halal food. How about South Korea? This set to prioritize the halal food industry, that it tends to build infrastructure center, a poultry slaughterhouse, a production facility, a halal certificate standards, a domestic institution that will provide guidelines, as well halal industry lecture and professional training. So it's not only provide for industry, but also the education sector to halal industry. In addition, the Government has a devised plan to increase competitiveness as part of a nationwide campaign to promote current cultural dishes of current cuisine that have been given the Halal stamp of approval are being served. They also conducted food or culture festival as a part of the promotion agenda. As a direct consequence of this, South Korea became aware of the fundamental requirement for its immigrant population to consume halal food. So here I can conclude that how the authorities handle the immigrant movement results in distinct perspective on the halal food industry. Talking about Indonesia-South Korea halal food economic project, here I divide into two. The application of Pancasila principle results in Indonesia tendency to satisfy the requirement of the majority of its population and maintains the country reputation for tolerance. A number of regulation gaps also play a role in the growth of the halal food industry in Indonesia. These gaps are particularly noticeable in rules governing small business, which make it difficult for them to obtain halal certification. This issue has led to the halal market in Indonesia being dominated by the large company and product imported from the other countries. As a result, the expansion of Indonesia's economic value in halal food is hampered by regulations that have not been approximately standardized by the government, as well as the lack of cooperation between the government and the halal food industry on everything from the certification process until the distribution. This in turn has effect on this in turn has effect on Indonesia's role in the halal food market, as the country has been able to establish itself as an essential participant in the market. However, South Korea, with the capital and Confucianism value, is able to quickly regulate the halal product, prepare and manage the economic system, and building cooperation with Muslim countries and create a regulation to expand their export value as it develops halal food. Here in Islam majority Indonesia society is communal. It's a lack of MacWeber power due to Confucianism. South Korea is likely to follow MacWeber theory on religiosity. So I think that's all from me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ramita, for your interesting presentations. This is a growing industry, I think not only in Indonesia, but also in other countries as well. And then your paper is it is very refreshing to hear you speaking on that topic. So we are going to have another speaker. She's preparing her presentation, and then I think that she's going to join with us soon. But before we listen to her presentations from Dewi Masita, so I will make some comments as a discussion, and then hopefully after I finish my comments, then we are going to have opportunity to hear presentations from Ramita. So I will begin my comments to Ramita first. So basically, I'm also learning, actually still in the learning process. So it is up to you whether you are going to accept my comments to improve your paper. So basically, after I read your paper, especially from Ramita, so it seems that I think that you need to explain more on analytical framework. So it is good to explain why Ibn Khaldun theory is fit to be included in your paper as theoretical framework, and also I think that you also include Weber theory that is part of your framework. But I think that the paper also needs to explain why the framework that you are using is better than others. I think that you need to also discuss theories that are included in the topic that you are writing. And you don't need to just mention Ibn Khaldun and Max Weber only. I think that is my short comments for Ramita. And for Khaidir Hasram, as I mentioned earlier, your topic is very interesting. It is quite rare for Indonesian scholars to discuss a topic that is happening in other countries. But it seems that I don't know, this is just my perception after I read quickly your paper. So I think that your paper needs to be more focused and need to be more rigorous. I don't know, probably I propose that if this paper is focused on political activism, and then you delve into this that topic, just do a rigorous paper on that subtopic, probably it is going to be interesting. And I will have questions, but I will save my question for you in the question and answer sessions. Yeah. Do we have Ibu Masita already in our panel? Okay, if she has not still joined us, so probably I will begin my questions first to Khaidir, Hasram. Why more Muslims are accepted to assume important positions in Cambodia bureaucracy? Or why Muslims are accepted by Cambodia society? It is quite interesting because in other countries, like in Europe, Muslims are not welcome by a society and also the government of Europe. But why Cambodia is accepting Muslims nicely?
Thank you for the question. I'm sorry, here rain in Makassar. Why Cambodian Muslims accepted nicely by Khmer society? Cambodian is the majority Khmer, more than 30%, 35% Khmer. And I state in my paper that there is historical roots and a strong relationship between Cham and Khmer. In Isa Usman books, in the intermarriage between Cambodia, between Khmer and Cham, there is a very close relation between the Cham and Khmer society. Therefore, Cham try to survive. They blended to the community. In the first, they become refugees, and then now they are what I say. They are very strong to the. They are very give a support, a stronger support to the Hansen government, and that's why Cambodian society or Khmer society, the majority in the Cambodia, accept Muslim nicely. I think that is the main point. Yes.
Thank you very much, Khaidir. We have got one question from Muhammad Abdillah. I know him very well because he helped me doing my research in Surabaya. So I thank very much for Muhammad Abdillah. But I have before I read Muhammad Abdillah presentation questions, I have questions for Muhammad al-Marakeby. So from your paper, it is very interesting that tax is being used as a tool of repressions by Egypt government, and then this is not happening in Indonesia. Indonesia, the government is using other instrument to repress Muslim clerics or ulama. So do you think that ulama are being discriminated? That is my first questions. The second question is usually ulama, including in Indonesia, are having very important positions, and they've got some of them are having very huge followers. But in Egypt, they are being repressed, many of them, if I'm not mistaken, if I read from your paper. So why they are not fighting? Well, actually, they've got political modality, influence among their followers.
Thank you very much, Dr. for your question. Actually, this paper discusses the ulama in the 19th century. And the central point of this paper is the ambivalence of the position of the ulama, because those people whom I presenting as opposing the state are themselves official ulama. I mean, they got their salaries from the state. They are in the highest position in the official hierarchy of the state. Sheikh Alish was the official mufti of Maliki in Egypt. I think this is exactly what makes it interesting, is that they are official ulama, they are serving the state, and at the same time, because of their religious fervor, they are delegitimizing some of the decisions of the rulers. So here's my argument comes as that they are trying to make a middle way between being official ulama and being opponent to the state at the same time. I should say that in the 19th century it was the beginning of the time of the deterioration of the power of the ulama. So with the rise of the modern state, ulama lost much of their financial sources, the waqfs, their independence, their communal power with the rise of the modern state. And I'm not very aware of the Indonesian situation, but in Egypt, the modern state encroached over all of the territories and powers and authorities of the local communities, ulamas, active people outside the sphere of the modern state. And I think this is the very nature of what modern state is. For sure, you are more aware of the Foucault theories and governmentalities and the change of the policies of the modern states, which aim to the technologies of the self, and all of these theories that shows how the modern state policies and the aims is totally different from the pre-modern governing systems. And because of this domination of the strategies, policies, and apparatus of the modern state, it diminished and curtailed and limited the power of the ulama. So I hope this helped somehow answering to your question. Thank you.
Thank you for your enlightening answer, Muhammad al-Marakeby. So now a question goes to Ramita from Muhammad Abdillah. So how the Korean people respond to the government's agenda on Halal project? On the one hand, the Korean government tries to invite Muslims, tourists to visit Korea. However, on the other hand, the acceptance of Koreans of Islam is quite low.
Okay, thank you for the question, Pak Muhammad Abdillah. So as I know that also every policy that is pro and contra from the society. Here also there is a society that are pro to government and contra for the government. Now the racism in South Korea also high, and even they are not agree to the government policy, but since it give them provide money and also increase their GDP, why not? So that's I think from the society perspective that I read. And then about the South Korea also invites the Muslim from the Muslim society to visit the Korea. It can be seen by how they develop facilities for the Muslim, such as in Jeju Island, they also provide mosques and consider the halal food for them. So I think that is a good improvement to attract the Muslim society to go South Korea.
Okay, thank you, Ramita, for your answers to Muhammad Abdullah questions. So, do we have already Ibu Dewi Mesita in our panel? Oh, okay. So Dewi Masita is still having problem with joining us. So, any other questions from participants? So, I now invite participants to ask questions to our presenters. Sonia, please, would you like me to read your questions, or are you going to ask questions directly to Khaidir? Okay, it seems that Sonia is going to have questions for Khaidir.
Yes, I'd like to ask to Khaidir. How about Muslim is the minority in Cambodia? How about, and you have explained that they involved in the politics. My question, how is it the politics of Muslim when they are running for political candidate? Like how active they are and what opportunity they have in the politics, except when, not only government involve them, but also how the society give them opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, please. Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Professor. Thanks, Mrs. Sonia. How the Cambodian Muslim in the political election, I think this is the interesting question. On June 13th, there is a Sangkat election in Cambodia. As you see in my slide before, there is a Muslim woman with their hijab with their Cambodian flag and CVP flag in their hands, and many Muslim get involved freely to the campaign in the political election. Since the Sangkat election, like election for the parliament in the city, in the level of province, and until in the national in the election for the member of the National Assembly. Now, as I know that there is 11, if I not mistaken, there is 11 Muslim figures, include women, become a member of the National Assembly. So the Muslim in Cambodia not just have the right to freedom in worship, but they have a right to free right to vote and to be voted and to be elected as in political position. And there is so many Muslim figure in Cambodia, include women in the political position, like in member of the National Assembly, in the ministry, secretary of the ministry, deputy of governor, and to the level of province. I think that's my answer. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Khaidir, for your answers to Sonia questions. Any other questions from participants of our panel? So if there is no questions, I will ask questions once more to Khaidir. So basically, right now in many countries around the world are being, how do you say, marked by the problem of Islam radicalism, like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and also even England and etc. and I think including Egypt. So is radicalism also a problem among Muslims in Cambodia? Are they influenced by the spread of Wahhabi, Salafi, and etc.?
This is an interesting phenomena that people always suggested that Wahhabism always not being what I want to say. Sorry, I'm like in Cambodia. Wahhabism, the Wahhabism is very spread widely. Mostly educational institution, Islamic center, and the mosque built by funding from the Middle East that have affiliation with the Wahhabism. But the people that I have met with them, they are very open. They are very open-minded with the religious differences. Like they are very active in many interfaith organizations, especially for the youth. Even they school or they study in the Wahhabi school. If you ask me, there is a problem of radicalism in Cambodia. Yes, there is. I remember that I think years ago there is a member of the Jamiah Islamiyah in Indonesia get in Cambodia become a center, become a center of their basis to improve their basis to spread the radical teaching in Islam. But when I ask Cambodian people, they are only say it's not a problem. We are living in harmony with the different religious, different sect, and different teaching of Islam. They accept the difference of the Islam. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Khaidir Hasram. Any more questions? We still have 6 minutes. Okay, if we don't have any more questions from participants of our panel, so there is a request from committee from UIII for us to be on camera. So do you mind if I ask you to, how do you say, turn the mode of your Zoom to be on camera? Okay, Nabila. This is for documentation's purpose for UIII. Okay.
Can we take now?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Done.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So on behalf of UIII committee, I thank everybody for participating in our discussions, and I hope that all of us can get insights from this interesting panel. So thank you very much, and then see you someday.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.